Hi there everyone, my name's Andy and I'm going to be doing a skill today on how to catch roach and skimmers. Now the first thing I hear you ask is you're all thinking, why is he being a little bit quiet and not giving us his usual oosh and this, that and the other? Well folks, the truth is it's a new year and it's a brand new me. I've decided to calm it down a bit. I think I've just been a little bit too nuts over the years, so I'm going to calm it down and go really in depth today and show you how I target these skimmers. Yeah, right, as if, new year, new me. Well, it is a new me actually, because I've lost 10 ounces. I don't know if you can see. Boosh, I'm all ripped and everything. Boosh. Anyway, before I said before, I'm going to show you in depth how I target these bream, skimmers and roach and chub and perch and tench and hopefully some Nemos. There's loads of Nemos in here, so hopefully we'll catch some of them as well. I'm going to go through the ground bait mix with you, what I do to the ground bait, little additives, this, that and the other. I've got 3 different rigs to show you, from sort of like catching fish on the drop, catching fish on the bottom, and then an ultra positive one for when they're proper having it. I'll show you all them rigs later on. I'm going to start off on the maggot feeder. I'm going to feed the pole swim, give it sort of like an hour or something like that, start off on the maggot feeder, and then hopefully snare one a chuck on the pole. So come back to me in a bit and then we'll go through rigs. Bish! Okay, so we're starting off on the feeder to give our pole swim a bit of a rest. I've got our brand new 11-foot Black Edition parabolic rods. Oh my word, are they a bit of kit. Oh yes, they're awesome. We've got a 3000 reel on. It's got a 6-pound line on it. And I've just got sort of like a 2.5-foot tail with a paternoster with a maggot feeder on. Now, I've actually talked through before exactly how I set this up, and by the magic of camera, there'll be a link on screen, so click onto that and it'll give you a complete rundown of how I actually set this up. Incidentally, I've got a 1/2 ounce tip on, very light tip, so I can see like some of the like proper dodgy little roach bites, not the chub ones, they just go like that, them chub ones. Right, pole rigs. So, first rig. This is going to be the main sort of rig, so we've got roughly about 6 foot. I've got a single 6s latex running through the pole. I've got a 414s float on, wire stem for stability. Now incidentally, wire stems, when I'm fishing on the bottom, I do like to use a wire stem float. You just get a lot more sensitivity with the float rather than sort of a carbon and this, that and the other. It's got a nice bulbous body. It's your typical sort of open water float really. And then you can see there we've just got a tiny little bit of grease on the bristle, just so I'm really dotting that float down. As ever, I've got back shots just above the float. What's that, sort of 4 or 5 inches above the float. I've got quite a bit of line on. It's probably a couple of foot between pole tip and float. Now that's important when it's windy. And also the water clarity. All right, it's quite deep where we're fishing, but it's pretty clear. I want to make sure that my pole top's away from the water. So I don't want to be spooking them fish, do we? We don't want to be doing that. Right, main line. On every rig, it's 0.13 Power Optex main line. And incidentally, all hook lengths are 0.10, but hooks are a bit different on one of them. We'll talk through that in a sec. So roughly around, what's that, 20, 22 inches from the hook, we've got a bulk. Now there's 6 number 9s and I've just got 2 number 10s as trimming shot, just to bring that float down nice and low in the water. That's my main bulk. Coming down sort of like 2.5, 3 inches, we've got a single number 10 dropper. And we've got another number 10 dropper, same distance. Same distance again, another number 10 dropper, and then we've got our 6-inch hook length. Now, hook-wise, I'm a massive fan of using the Gamakatsu, the black gammas. I think they're brilliant hooks. They're nice fine wire, but they're strong. You can get great big doozy waddly carp out on them, but they're perfect for roach and skimmers or perch. Perch feed very well this time of year when they're sort of like nom nom nom, feeding up for the winter. So you do catch quite a few of them, and obviously perch got real bony mouth, so these fine wire but very sharp hooks are absolutely perfect. So that's my main rig. That's what I'm going to catch most of my fish on. Another one, if it's really hard or if there's a lot of roach in the peg to start with. Again, we've got this, incidentally, that rig was probably about 2 to 2.5 inches over depth. This one, come down to the float first. It's a different float this time. It's a WD1 412s. So that one's 414s. You see the style of it as well. It's got a more of a sort of stretched rather than a rugby ball shaped body. Now that's important because when you're getting them little dodgy roach bites, them little tiny shakes, you want to be straight into the fish. I don't want to be using a pencil float because with the amount of wind on today, your float's going to be riding out, so they're no good. I want a little bit of a body, a little bit of resistance to hold back on, but more streamlined when you're striking into them. It's a big word for me, that, Rich, streamlined, isn't it? So again, exactly the same again, back shots just above the float, single sixes latex elastic, exactly the same main line, 0.13. Coming down this time, again, the shots are roughly in the same position. The bulk's probably about 2 foot away this time. We've got 6 number 10s there. Now, rather than 10s droppers on that other rig, these are number 11s. So you can imagine when that's falling through the water, what I'm going to do with this rig, I lay it in completely different. We'll go through that later on. Basically, with that rig, I'll sort of lay it in, bring it back, and then put the float right over it so it's settling straight away. With this one, because this is when I'm going to catch more fish on the drop, I'm going to hold back tight against the back shot so the float's going in at an angle and you can see them little dinks on the drop straight into them. So as I say, 3 number 11s on, spaced same distance apart as that other rig, and we've got exactly the same 16s black gamma hook on, 0.10 hook length, 6 inches. Now we're going on to the main one. So if the fish proper start having it, it's get ready time, this rig. I love using this rig for skimmers. Oh, it's amazing. So we've got our brilliant new 3 to 6s hollow elastic on. It's fantastic stuff, this, because when you're striking into them skimmers, certainly in the depth, you want to make sure they're on. You know what I mean? When you're striking into them, certainly when you're striking against a heavier float, which this is a 4/16s float, exactly the same pattern as the 4/14s one, that first rig that I showed you. It's a Summer Deck 1 float. Again, with a little bit of grease on, back shots again. Now this time the shotting's completely different. Remember, this rig is for when there's a lot of fish in your peg. You want to catch lots and lots of fish. You're just getting straight down to them. It's basically double bulking. So we've got our initial bulk shot there. We've got 6 number 8s and then number 9 just to bring that float down. And that's probably what, 14 to 16 inches away from the hook. We've got another little bulk there, and that's 3 number 8s. Hook's a little bit different. I've got a 16s Kamasan B911 F1 hook, so bigger hook, so I can put sort of baits like corn or corn skin, double maggot, you know, expanders, things like that. When I want to get straight down to the fish, this is the rig that you want to go to. It's fantastic. It does catch a lot of fish very quickly, but you've got to make sure there's a lot of fish there first. It's a little bit too positive, you know, to start off the session on, when you're just sort of like searching around for the fish and see what's there. Basically, I'm going to start the session off. I'm going to put sort of a couple of orange sized balls in, a few casters in, a few micros, a few maggots, and then I'm going to start off on the maggot feeder, give that ground bait line, the pole line, sort of like hour and a half, winkle some fish out, put some fish in the net, and then we'll go on the pole and hopefully empty it. So without further ado, I think I'll show you how to mix the ground bait. It's ground bait time. Now, there's nothing more than I love than mixing ground bait. It just takes you right back to my childhood days, and every now and again I'd have a bit of a taste of the ground bait as well. But I don't fancy having a taste of this one. Oh, no thank you. So, I've got everything around me. I've got the bucket of water, I've got the riddle, I've got a bowl that I can put my finished mix in when we riddle it later on, and I've got, more importantly, a big bowl to mix the ground bait in. Now, my ground bait of choice for this time of year is an absolute cult classic first. This is the Swimstin Black. You know, it's been used for years, and you know, its results speak for themselves. It's fantastic stuff. Now, the reason for a dark one rather than sort of like, which is just a lighter mix, obviously because the water's a little bit clear, I don't want to put a light ground bait in because it can spook the fish, so I want to darken it up a little bit. So all we're doing, literally putting a little bit more than sort of 1/4 kilo of bag. We don't need loads today. I say it's very cold, and it's just a 50-50 mix of them both. And that's what you're left with. So we've got the dry ingredients in there. Just going to mix them up a little bit before we start adding the water. Now obviously drills work well, this, that and the other, but if you haven't got a drill, get your mittens in there. You don't need a drill. So all we're going to do with this water, just going to add it a tiny bit at a time. If you put too much in, then chances are it can go sort of like too over wet, and it'll take ages to get it right to the right consistency. So you can see there, I just put a tiny little bit of water in, and already it's starting to form together. For a feeder mix, that's perfect, but we're not fishing feeder, we're fishing maggot feeder. We're not putting ground bait through it. So a tiny bit more water, a little bit more of a mix. I want it sort of a little bit over wetted to start with, similar to how I would mix it for the method really. Make sure you keep mixing, and what you're doing is getting a load of air into that ground bait. So carrying on mixing, a tiny bit more water. I think that'll be about right. So when you give it a light squeeze, it forms together straight away. Now, one of the most important things to bear in mind, if you know you're going to be fishing ground bait, make sure it's the first thing you do when you get to your peg. Don't set up first and do it after. The first thing you want to do is mix your ground bait up, because this mix is going to take sort of 15-20 minutes from now to get to the right consistency. So we'll come back in about 15 to 20 minutes. I'll have to add a little bit more water. That ground bait would have dried out. And then after you get it back to that consistency again, I'm going to put it through a riddle, get rid of all them lumps, not as many lumps in there anyway, get rid of all them lumps, and then I can start putting the three offerings in. I'm going to put a few casters in, a few maggots and just a few micros. So by the magic of camera, let's come back in sort of 15 to 20 minutes and we'll do the riddling process. Oh yeah. So 15 to 20 minutes is past. I've been setting up all my gear, getting ready for the session. Now come back to the ground bait. You can see it's gone really dry now, pretty much how it was when I first put the ingredients in without putting any water on. So what we need to do now is add some more water to it to get it back to the consistency it was. Big word, isn't it? Again, consistency. You need to get it back to that same consistency it was before we left it for sort of 15 to 20 minutes. So again, make sure you're working it all the time, get a load of air into it. It's only taking a little bit of water and a little squeeze and it forms that ball straight away. So that's perfect now. So what we need to do next is bring the bowl into play. I'm going to put all that ground bait into that bowl and then put the riddle over the bucket. Now what we want to do now is get a nice fine mix. So what I want to do, any of these like sort of bigger lumps that you can see there, I'm going to put it through a riddle and riddle them all out. Very important for this time of year. I mean, there's people do it in the summer, but in the summer the fish are having it. It doesn't really matter. You know, it's a personal preference. If you want to do it, but I don't think it matters too much in the summer. Obviously, this is the advantage where a drill comes in now. You know, by using a drill, that eliminates all them lumps and everything, so you don't really need a riddle whatsoever. But I haven't got a drill, so I'm using these mittens. So, in the riddle, literally all we're doing, we're just shaking that ground bait through. And that's what you're left with. So, if you left that mix how it was, you can see these bigger bits here, the fish could go down on them, start feeding on them, and it just fill them up really quickly. So we want to get rid of all them. So all we're going to do is push them through the riddle. Okay, same again, a little bit more left in there. And we're just going to shake them all through that riddle. Lovely, that's all gone. And what you're left with, put that mix back into there, is a lovely, fine, textured ground bait, no lumps whatsoever. Now that mix is absolutely perfect. So the next stage, you get enough out for a session. That's more than enough for a session, that. And then you're going to put the bait that you want to be putting in. Now what you can do is obviously just put the ground bait in neat, then maybe put like half a pot, quarter of a pot of, you know, pinkies, maggots, casters in right over the top. But what I like to do is I like to put the three offerings in the ground bait anyway. So we're literally just going to get a few casters, 37, just literally a few casters, a few maggots, and obviously dead ones are probably better, but live ones, it's cold, the maggots aren't wriggling around enough, so they're not going to break that ball up, you know, when you're shipping it out, so it doesn't matter. Just going to put a few maggots in, and what I like to do is put a few micros in as well. Now, very important, when you're doing your micros, make sure they're pre-soaked. What you don't want to do is put them in straight out of the bag, because they'll absorb some of the moisture. So these are already pre-soaked, these. I'm just going to sprinkle a few micros in there. So give that another mix. Just disperse all them three offerings. You like that, disperse. Get them all over the place, so that when you make a bowl up now, so our initial feed, I'm going to put sort of like two like tangerine sized bowls in to start with. My top up bowls are going to be sort of like golf ball size. And what I'm looking to do is sort of like fish the balls out. Sometimes you'll catch, you know, for 20-30 minutes over a ball. Sometimes, you know, if the fish are really having it, it might literally take sort of 5 to 10 minutes and you'll have to top up again. But what you can do in that instance is put a little tiny like kinder pot on your pole and just feed a ball every couple of fish or something. We won't know until we sort of like get fishing to see what the response of fish is going to be. So initial ball, as I say, like sort of tangerine size. Get a couple of hands around it. and that's how we're going to put it in. Now I'll put one in quite hard that'll go straight down to the bottom and break up, you know, after a few seconds. And then the next one I'll put in will be I'm going to squeeze that a lot less. So literally it's just nice and fluffy. It sort of like breaks up halfway down the water. And then what that's doing is creating a bigger area for the fish to come in with. You're drawing fish in. This first bowl though, you can see there's not going to be hardly any feed in there. I'll just show you, I'll just break that down. You can see it's just a few casters in, a few maggots and just a few micos, hardly any feed whatsoever. I don't know what the response is going to be from the fish first. I mean, it's a cold day, you've got a nice wind blowing, but the water's clear, so I want to make sure that I'm giving myself the best option. I don't want to go all guns blazing like I normally do. Get it filled in, stick 28 pints of casters in. Don't want to do that. I want to give the fish an option and let them tell me what's happening. So that's our first ball, and as I say, this second ball that I put in right over the top, that just starts breaking up sort of halfway down, going a bigger area. Now, what I like to do as well, as I say, I'm going to start off on a maggot feeder. What I like to do whilst I'm on a feeder is ping a few casters over the top. And again, what that's doing, that's going over a big area, and it's drawing fish in all the time. Now, it's very important that you lose feed, because you want to draw fish off other anglers. If they're just sort of like sticking with the ground bait, there's nothing left there to draw the fish in. You know, certainly the roach will be sort of like off the bottom, so if they're swimming round in shoals and they see bait going down, they'll quite happily come into the casters, hear the noise, and then settle down over your ground bait. So let's go and get 2 of these balls in on the pole line, and then let's get fishing. Let's get on the maggot feeder. Yes. Right then, it's that time. We're getting ready to feed the swim. I can't tell you how good I am. Right, okay. So as we went through before, bit big that ball. So bit of a harder one to start off with, tangerine size. In the pot we go. Right then, let's get it out. So we're fishing 14.5 metres today. About 6 foot over plumbed up. It's nice and flat out there. Sort of levels off about 8 metres. It's lovely out here. So, and I'm lining up with the edge of the island over there. So, get onto a marker. And now what I want to do is just lay that ball in there. I don't want to drop it from a height or anything like that. Not because it necessarily spook the fish, but it could break up a little bit quicker than what I want to. I want to sort of like, I want it to break up. Well, certainly I want this ball to break up, the second one I'm putting in, but I want to sort of like control the breakage. Oh yeah, so this one, literally just a very light squeeze. Quite heavy-handed, so it's quite hard for me to do something like, but I've managed it. And this one on exactly the same spot. Out we go again. Get onto a marker, end of the pole, which is there. And the end of that island, again, nice and gentle. Just put that ground bait in. So that'll start working away. I'm going to get the maggot feeder out now. Now a few casts with that, probably give it about an hour, hopefully snare a few fishes, and then we'll come back to that in an hour. Incidentally, you'll see when I'm on the maggot feeder, I'm going to be pinging a few casters out, but every sort of 5 to 10 minutes, something like that. Again, I don't know what the response of the fish is going to be, so rather than sort of filling it in, which I do quite like to do, I'm going to just ping it in little and often, just to draw the fish in, but when I start fishing it, that's when I know what the response of the fish is going to be. Let's get on the maggot feeder. Boosh! We're still going or not? Yeah. Are we? Are we doing it all in one? Mate, you sprung that on me, Rich. Sprung that on me, people. So what I'm doing, right, we've got double maggot on. Double red, got 16s hook on, and what I've done with the maggots, I've put them back to back so that when you're winding back, you'll notice when I wind back, hopefully I'll wind back with a fish on, but if I don't, I'll keep my rod nice and high so that maggot feeder comes straight to the top and then my hook limbs behind it, not tangling up. And that's why I put them on back to back. So, maggot feeder, got a 20 gram maggot feeder on. Just gonna sort of like half load it with maggots. It's very important. Dip that maggot feeder in first, keep them maggots in. And then, bees, give it a big one out there. Oof, lovely. Just move this keep net up, use that as a guide. That's important with this maggot feeder, that you're in contact with it all the time. I'm not going to sink the line or anything, I'm just going to tighten down to it. If I was fishing a normal feeder, what I'd like is sort of like sink the line first, so we had a little twitch then. I'm just going to give it a bit of encouragement. What I'd like to do if I was fishing like traditional ground bait feeder is cast it in and sink the line straight away. But with this, because you get bites on the drop, with the nature of it, obviously the maggots are coming out all the time. That's why I just like to tighten up just straight away and not sink the line. All the time I'm twitching it. Most of your bites will come just after you've twitched it. Now, it's important with a maggot feeder, it's not like the ground bait feeder. You've got to keep regular casting. There's a lot of chub, a lot of roach in here, and you've got to keep that column of bait going in. So roughly sort of 90 seconds to 2 minutes. If you've not had anything, just bring it back. The other thing to watch for, if when I bring it back, oh, there's a bite, but we've not connected. Oh dear. So you notice, like, I'm keeping the rod nice and high. Now that's important. If you kept it low, chances are that your hook length would spin up, tangle. Obviously that's not what we want. So keep your rod nice and high. So you can see there, you zoom in on that, Rich. We've got one tiny little smash maggot and then one live one. Now, it could have been a fish on the drop. I'm going to get rid of that one that's smashed. It could have been a fish on the drop, or it could be that the hook length I've got is too long. Now, I tend to use sort of like 2 to 3 foot hook length, something like that. If you're constantly coming back, you know, you get them little touches, or you come back after like your 2 minutes is up and your maggots are smashed, you know your hook length's too long. So what you've got to do is just shorten it. I tend to shorten it sort of like 8 inches at a time or something like that. But that should alleviate, Rich. Mate, I'm coming out with all the big words today, aren't I? That should alleviate that problem. Boosh, smash that out again. There we go. Right, so you see this time, I tightened up to it straight away. Instantly, I'm looking for them bites straight away. There's no mistake in the bites. Usually, certainly if it's chub, we'll just pull it straight in. Now, bearing in mind, usually when you feed a fish, and you can just sort of like lift into the fish. But because there's a lot of stretch in this, and it's a very soft rod, you can strike into them, you can give them a bit. I had a little tiny touch then, but because I didn't make contact with that last one when I had a little touch, I'm just going to leave it a little bit longer. I'm going to move it a little bit. So leave it that little bit longer, just so the fish can take it proper. But again, I know if I come back after that little touch that I've had, and I come back this time, the maggot's snotted, then again I know that my hook length might be a little bit too long, so I just need to shorten it up a little bit. So you see I'm constantly working this, little tiny movements all the time. You can imagine them maggots are falling down, they're just going through that column all the time. Oh, that was a bite. And we got one on. So second cast and we got a fish on. We missed that first one, but it's probably a liner, because you know we don't miss proper bites. That's not how I roll, is it? Now, you notice when I'm playing these fish, because we've got a lovely soft rod, these Black Edition rods are awesome. Literally, I'm just putting it nice and low and I'm just winding. Obviously, if it was a bigger fish, you know, I wouldn't be necessarily winding like this, but with these smaller fish, you can just sort of like keep that rod low and just keep winding. It's only a little baby fish. But if you keep it sort of coming that same way, he'll just swim right back towards you. Rather than risk putting your rod high. Here we go. There's a lovely roach to start with. So, proof of the pudding. The maggot feeder, you know, it catches all these kind of fish, you know, roach, chub. You catch everything on it. You'll catch carp and skimmers as well. But it's all about, better put this in the net, Anna. It's all about keeping that column of bait going in. So I'm going to spend a good sort of hour on this, because obviously I've had a bite first cast, I've had a fish second cast. Hopefully we can snare a few. Now, you notice when I'm casting, I'm probably about a metre and a half off the island. I don't want to go too tight to start with. I want to let the fish tell me where they are. So the fact that we've had some short of the island's good, then I can chase them up. Them chub will probably be right under that banking. So we can exploit that in a little bit. But I'm going to carry on catching these fish for a bit. So why don't you join me in a bit when we're on the pole, snarled up in skimmers hopefully. Oh yes. Are you going already? Right. I think I'm going to make this my last chuck. It's not been brilliant. We've had a few fish on it. Beesh! We've winkled out a nice chub. Eesh! Sort of 8-10 ounce. That was nice. Had some nice roach. Had a couple of skimmers, but It's not been as solid as what it normally is. Normally, when you're chucking it in, they're normally straight on it. But it's not been like that today. So last chuck, been fishing it sort of like an hour, just over an hour. I've been pinging casters in regular onto this pole line, badoosh, like so. So if this doesn't go round in sort of like another 90 seconds, it's going to get wound in, and then we're going to go straight on the pole. Rig wise, so I'm going to start off on the light one, the 412s, because I've been pinging a few casters in. I'd expect a few sort of like roach to be there. If there's not and it's settling and, you know, I get a skimmer, then I'm going to abandon that light rig straight away and just go for the 414s. And obviously we've got that ultra positive one if there's a lot of fish there, and then we can get straight on that. But I've not put any more ground bait in other than them 2 balls. I've just literally just put them 2 balls in, and I've been sort of like every 5 minutes, something 10 minutes maybe, just pinging a few casters over. And I can't wait to see what the response is going to be. Hopefully it'll be better than this, because this has not been so good. It's been alright, like. Probably had £2 or £3 minute, something like that, which isn't bad. £2 or £3 an hour over 5 hours is quite a few. Enough to win a few silvers matches anyway. So, well, I wins that one on, didn't I? So what happened then? So you probably noticed I was giving it like odd twitch every now and again. Twitchy, not like the bird twitcher, just like a twitch of the tip. So like it's moving like 4 or 6 inches on the bottom. And it feels a bit better fish actually. I'm saying skimmer. What are you saying, Rich? What are you saying? Talk to me. Roach. It might have turned into a roach actually, folks. I don't know, it's feeling a bit skimmery. Again, you notice, keeping it nice and low, just keep winding. Once you get that fish pointing your way, just keep winding. Point and wind, people, point and wind. You can see the angle of the line and the rod tip, so you know when to lift that rod eye and get ready to play it proper. Incidentally, I'm using back wind. I like to have the drag set as well, but I love back winding. Oh, I think you were right, Rich. It is a nice roach. So that's sort of been, you know, a bit bigger than the typical stamp, about sort of 2 ounce. No, maybe sort of 5 or 6 ounce, something like that. Nailed it. So that come right at the end of that 2 minutes. I'm not going to have another chuck on that because I'm getting all giddy and I can't wait to get on the pole. So, oh my word, look at that sky over there, Rich. That's like a Wizard of Oz stone by the look over there. Hopefully it doesn't come our way. Right, so we've gone for the 412s rig. Remember, this has got 10s as droppers, 11s as droppers and 10s in the bulk. Really light float. I'm going to put a single red on. And then what I'm going to do with this when I'm laying it in, I'm going to lay it out at an angle. I'd imagine, because the wind's sort of like slightly going off my right shoulder, we're going to have an undertow going from left to right. Now, usually, when you're laying it in with the toe, that's better, but to start off with, I like to lay it against the toe and let it sort of swing in. So, like so, we're out there, we swung it out to the side, line up with our marker, which is the point of that island, and I'm going to hold a tight line. Then you can see the angle of that float. I'm just going to ping a few casters around it. Casters! Now the angle of that float is coming in lovely, so if we're getting bites on the drop, I'll be seeing them. Now, it's not settled yet. You'll see them droppers come in. Oh, there we go, it's settling now. So if that float was held up, obviously I know that I'd have a fish on the drop, strike, and you'll be into one straight away. But as it is now, it's settled and we're getting ready, and that's going through lovely actually, left to right. It's very important. I've literally got sort of, what, 3 mil afloat, 4 mil at the most. No, not even that. A float showing, a bristle showing, and it's so important. I can't stress it enough. You know, we talk about fishing sort of like really delicate for F1s. Some skimmers and especially roach are exactly the same. Oh, there's a bubble come up then, cheeky. Skimmers and roach are very much the same. You've got to dot that float down, and you know, you get your now then, what have we walled into here, Rich? So you can make the choice really quickly, because obviously we've had that fish on the bottom, and it's taken what, not long to catch it, has it? But if it's a skimmer, I'm going to abandon this rig straight away and then go on the 414s just to get down there really quick, because if they are there in numbers, and we want to catch a few, don't we? But if we had a bite on the drop then, a roach or something, obviously I'd have stuck on this rig. And likewise, if like I'll put this rig up the bank now, get the 414s on, but if we don't catch on it, it might be a bit too positive because they do bite really shy, then I'll just pick this rig back up and away we go. It's easy, isn't it? I don't even know what it is, Rich. Might be it's a lovely skimmer. Look at that beauty. Beautiful. That's what we want. That's what you can expect. So we've rested that swim for a good sort of hour. Look at that, right in top lip. Right in scissors, in top lip. Beautiful. He's getting a kiss. But he's having a poo on me. I'm going to put him in net before he poos on me. So he's going in there. So that's what you can expect. As I say, we've left it an hour. I'm going to get rid of this rig now and pick the other one up. And it just gives the fish confidence, when they start coming in. As long as you don't put, balls and balls of ground bait in over the top of them, the fish will just quite happily settle on it. But I'm convinced, sort of loose feeding them casters, it really does make a big difference. Now all we're doing this one, again, single red maggot, exactly the same hook, 16's black gamma, but remember it's just that little bit more positive, that little bit heavier, different float as well. So we're going to go straight through, straight down to the fish now, and we'll see what the response is. We should, if it's working right, we should get a bite a little bit quicker. So obviously we'll get down to them a lot quicker. So I'm not going to hold back tight on it. I'm just going to sort of pull my float through, bring my pole around to the side so it settles very quick. So we're fishing straight away now. That's it. You notice I just pinged a few casters out then. Ping! And I was waiting for a bite. I had a little bit of a dink then, but I forgot to strike. So I think we'll just give that one a little bit of encouragement, like that. Incidentally, when you're moving the float out, to try and entice the fish, experiment with that. Sometimes, especially when it's flat, you'll catch most of your fish just after you've moved it, if you're only moving it out sort of 2-3 inches at the most. When there's a bit of a chop on it, or you think, oh, we missed it, liners. Don't miss popper bites. When there's a bit of a chop on it, or it's really deep, experiment, move it sort of like a foot to 18 inches off. Just see what's best. So you can see I'm pulling that float round, bringing it back over and dropping it straight away. So it goes straight down to the bottom, then you're fishing. Now I got a bite on the drop there. So you see how quickly we were into that fish? That's the difference with this more positive rig. Now, what I don't want to do, yeah, I'd love to catch roach, but usually skimmers are going to weigh a little bit heavier than the roach. So I don't want to put loads of casters in, I just want to keep putting a few in, just trickling them in, just to keep drawing them fishing. That's a nice roach. Just to keep drawing them lovely fishing. If I wanted to like proper bring them up in the water, I'd be pinging in, sort of 10 or 12 casters regular all the time, every time I go in. But what I'm going to do today is sort of catch 2 or 3 fish and then ping like 15 or 20 casters in. Try and keep them on the bottom. The things to watch for, if you notice sort of like we've had them bites very quickly, haven't we? If we go sort of 5 to 6, 7 minutes, something like that, without a bite, any signs whatsoever, that's when you know it's time to top up again, simple as that. Natural waters, you might want to leave it a little bit longer just in case, but certainly on commercials, just give it, sort of 5, 6, 7 minutes, something like that, and then you go and top up with like a golf ball size. When we come round to that stage, obviously I'll show you the size of the ball, and then we'll do it, but you don't need to rest it or anything like that. The fish are used to the ground bait, you can just get straight back over it, and then it usually just kick-start your swim again. But yeah, that's brilliant response so far. Them 2 fish straight away, missed a liner. But it just shows you the effectiveness of that heavier rig. Always start off on your lighter rig, explore the depth, see what's happening. If you're getting bites on the drop, by all means stay on the lighter rig, but you saw straight away we had that decent skimmer. So we knew instantly to change rig straight away and see what happens. Oh, there's one just top there. Right, so this rig's been in sort of 2 minutes now, not had any response, so just going to start giving it a bit of encouragement. If there's a lot of fish there and you're constantly lifting and dropping, sometimes you can foul hook them, but I like to let it settle for a bit first and then start lifting and dropping. So every sort of 10 to 15 seconds, I'm going to move that float out slightly, just to see what the response of the fish is. If it's not right, then again, I'm just going to leave it stationary. The other thing as well to bear in mind is we've got a lovely toe, a natural underwater toe going from left to right. experiment, you know, sort of canal style. Let it sort of trip through, then hold back, so that bait sort of slightly comes up, then let it trip through again, or just let it go through, you know, at its natural speed, or, you know, try holding back. These fish want something different, you know, pretty much all the time. They're wild animals at the end of the day, so who's to say they're going to have it the same every single time? We wouldn't. We like it different. Sounds a bit wrong, that, doesn't it? But and fish are exactly the same. Now, I'd imagine because we haven't put any more ground bait in for over an hour now, that them fish that were there, they've come in, they've mopped it all up, nom 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 nom. So I'd imagine, because we've not had a bite sort of this time, 3 or 4 minutes, that I need to go and put another little ball in. Just going to ping a few casters in first, see if that can draw a response. But I'd imagine, look at that, straight round it, 6 casters right on the float. I'd imagine that it just needs topping up a little bit. Or, boosh, we could ring one on like that. Or it could be there's a great big carp there. You know, it can happen, especially obviously on commercials. You know, you'll get the odd waddly carp coming in, and it can ruin it a little bit. But the way it started off, I'd have expected a bit of a quicker response than, you know, sort of 3 minutes for this fish. Even though I got told to stop talking. But it looks like another decent skimmer. Oh yeah, lovely. Now, it's decision time now. Obviously, we've had the skimming after sort of 3 minutes, but, you know, it's one of them I've gone a good hour without putting anything in. So I think what I'm going to do is top up. So, nice and quickly, I'm just going to lay that rig out there. And fish are like ice cubes, they're proper cold. Get this. And then we're going to make up sort of a golf ball one. Again, I'm not going to squeeze it sort of too hard. Just a few little light squeezes. Little golf ball one. And that's the size that you want to top up with. Realistically, that ball should last sort of 20 minutes, maybe half an hour. And then, you know, same again. Just go and top up again. A thing to watch for, if it's not really working by putting a big ball in, if it's only lasting for sort of, you know, 2, maybe 3 fish, then a really good way of catching skimmers and roach and pretty much all things fishy is just to put a little kinder pot on the end of your pole and then just introduce sort of like little tiny grape-sized bowls and try and catch a fish off every ball or 2 fish off 1 little ball. That can work really well. But quickness-wise, over the course of a match, obviously it's a lot quicker to just sort of like put your ball in and then fish it out. But well, not usually, sometimes when there's a lot of fish there, you can get a little bit too preoccupied on that, just that big ball, and it can be gone in seconds. So, you know, we'll just keep an eye on that, we'll see what's what. But that ball I've put in now, obviously that'll be breaking down, lovely. And there should be a fish on it pretty much straight away. I'm going to ping a few casters in over the top of it again. Badoosh, like so. Oh, pinpoint, every single one right on my float. And then we'll wait for it. So that floats right over that ball of ground bait now. We just had a little bit of a dink then, so bit of encouragement. Sometimes it can take, you know, a few minutes for the fish to, you know, they might initially get spooked off that ball, but normally when they want it proper, they'll get straight in, get their heads down and get feeding on it pretty quickly, which hopefully is what's going to happen now, because I've not seen that ground bait for a good hour. You know, they should be pretty much straight on it. I caught that one by sort of inching it through a little bit, that one we just had, holding back and just inching through a little bit. That seems to be the way. If there's a bit of toe on it, obviously the centre of that ground bait's getting pushed, you know, pushed quite a bit down and out with your swim. But by all means explore your swim as well. Obviously the whole nature of loose feeding a few casters as well, it's going to bring the fish over a bigger area. So by all means, you know, try a metre left, a metre right, a little bit further out. Not necessarily closer in, but, you know, try all round your peg. Just to maximise your fishing, really. Right, so that's been settled 90 seconds. I'm going to start moving it now. Start giving it them little movements. There's a fish round it and it sees that bait move, generally they'll have it. Ooh, had a little dink then. Keep forgetting to strike. Generally they'll have it straight away. But the main thing, I say obviously, the most important thing is feeding, presentation. They're the 2 biggest things by far in fishing. presentation wise and also with that float, it's got to be dinked down. The bites that I've had one lift bite and 2 that have gone under, but you know, they're just sort of like shaking the way under. They're not like proper having it. It does make a difference having it dotted right down. So if you had sort of like half an inch out, you wouldn't see them little dinks. You just literally would not see them. But by having it as like hardly anything just above the surface of the water, them little dinks would show up as a proper bite, and you know, it does make a massive difference. Ping a few more casters in. So I think what's happened, obviously, by putting that ball in, you know, we need to make sure that we're getting the fish used to them balls now. So it's probably going to take 4 or 5 minutes by the look of it before them fish come in and start having a root round on that ground bait again. Obviously we've only got one swim on the go today, match conditions, because I've got a rather handsome professional skyliner behind the camera. The other place I like to target on these kind of waters where it's nice and deep close in is just loose feeding casters short. Catch a lot of fish through the water on like that 412s rig. Catch a lot of fish like that, but I've not done it today because I solely want to go through how I target, you know, sort of the skimmers and the roach on commercial waters. But oh, we missed it. But if I was in a match, I'd be constantly, well, sort of every 2 or 3 minutes I'd be throwing casters on that short line, and you know, that can give yourself a rest. So when you fed a ball out there, you come back to your short line, carrying on catching fish whilst you're waiting for that to settle down again. And likewise, you know, exactly the same with the little feeder. Or you could have a little waggler on the go, something like that. Right, so we just had a bite there, and then again I had it sort of like running through. That seems to be the way today. They want it towing through a little bit. Although that ball will be going straight down to the bottom, obviously the toe is going to take, like, you know, the centre of the ground bait. It's going to be going sort of like with the toe slightly. So it does pay to experiment with that. Let it go through with the toe. And experiment with rigs as well, you know. Sometimes, you know, even a 414s can be a little bit too positive if the fish aren't really having it. And obviously that's where a lighter rig comes into play. So it might be, you know, I'll give it another sort of 10 minutes. And if it's not really happening on this heavier rig, I'll put that 412s rig back on again, and you know, that might make all the difference. It does for F1s, that's for sure. You know, that fishing as light as possible really does make a big difference. Oh, there we go. Wins another one on. Again, just chipping through lovely, that was. Lovely, lovely. Oh, I didn't half by catching these skimmers. Oh my word, Rich, look at that behind us. Wizard of Oz storm coming through. Let's get this fish in quicker. So you can see I've got a nice long landing net handle as well. A 4 metre one, which is very important. Obviously, as soon as these fish come up, you want to make sure you're netting them straight away. The skimmers, obviously, nice, soft mouths. You can pull out of them if they're coming up, you know, quite a long way out. You want to make sure you're on them straight away. Right, other thing as well, it's very, very important. I see a lot of anglers going in with slime on the rig, you know, time and time again, and trust me, it does make a big difference. You've got to get all that smeg off. So basically all you want to do, get the bait off first, get it from around your hook, slide it up your hook length, make sure there's a bit of tension on your line, and just get your index finger in your thumb and just plink it off that way. You can just move it up to that shot, but that has a tendency of moving back down again. I'd sooner get it all off. Get it all from around your hook. Unfortunately, it's one of them things, you know, certainly with skimmer fishing, you will spend a bit of time over the course of a match cleaning your rig, but if you didn't do it, trust me, you wouldn't catch as many fish as if you did do it. Well, unfortunately, the weather's put a bit of a dampener on things. We've taken sort of 5 minutes out, it's still raining a bit, just to show you lovely people what we've caught. We've fished for 2.5 hours, and we've had a few cheeky fishes. There's probably, I don't know, 15 or 16 pound there, I'd say. We've had one of our kind, Mitch, haven't we? We've had a strawberry blonde one. Look at that, beautiful little Nemo. And we've had some lovely skimmers. I think that was the first one we caught. And we've had a chub. So we had a chub on a feed. That's a nice one. Bestest fish in the world there. We've had some nice roaches. There we go, a few nice roaches. But, you know, mainly skimmers. As I was saying, that's what I wanted to target today, them skimmers. And it just goes to prove, you know, it has been proper cold, and I was getting bites there right at the end, but it was just unfishable. I couldn't really see my float. It was dotted down that much. It was windy, the rain, you know, it was bouncing off the water. So unfortunately we've had to call it a day, but I can't wait to come back for more and, you know, try it again and hopefully get snarled up in these skimmers again. So remember, just, you know, a few basic pointers which we've been through today. Get out in your local water and your local commercial while it's still a bit cold and give it a try, and you too can have results like that. Let's get them back. Beesh! Lovely. There they all go, little beauties. Oh, look at him there, right at the bottom, wobbling off. Yeah!